Really good to have you with us. Thank you so much for joining us on the Coach Launch podcast. Um, really looking forward to diving into the stuff that you do today. I'm super excited to learn more about what you do. Welcome to this episode.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce Jessica Hartley to this episode today. I'm thrilled to introduce her. She's known as the Heart Whisperer in relationship transformation world. As the founder of the legendary Love Program, she has revolutionized how struggling relationships heal, commanding as much as $60,000 for her VIP emergence. What sets Jessica apart is her master's in spiritual psychology. Let me say it again. What sets Jessica apart isn't just her master's in spiritual psychology or a success hosting thriving relationship radio show, it's her ability to transform marriages on the brink, even when one partner has one foot out of the door. Through her groundbreaking chemistry shift framework, she has proven that lasting change doesn't require years of therapy or both partners' initial commitments. Today, she's going to share with us how she helps couples create extraordinary love, even in the face of infidelity and betrayal. If you've ever wondered if real transformation is possible in your relationship, this conversation is just for you. Please welcome Jessica Hartley. Thank you
Mhm.
so much.
Thank
All
you.
right, so we're going to dive in here and get some context about what you've been up to and what you're doing. You're a business owner, you're a coach, you're helping people in the space of relationships, um,
Mhm.
and that's a very powerful place. Excuse me if my camera does that every now and then. I just
Oh,
have to pause and I'll come
okay.
I'll edit that part out.
Right.
And so, helping people with relationships, that's a huge thing because there's a lot of um, misinformation out there, and there's a lot of loneliness out there, and there's a lot of people that just haven't got the knowledge and experience to be able to sometimes fix relationships or work through stuff.
Mhm.
Um, your personal journey from experiencing a challenge, upbringing, and to becoming a revered relationship coach is quite powerful. Could you share some pivotal moments that have inspired you to transform your personal story into a legacy, helping others that can get their, relationships through to finding extraordinary love?
Yes. So when I was growing up, I had a pretty painful childhood. Um, my father was alcoholic and abusive, emotionally and physically, and my house was just not a safe place to be. And so I got trauma from that. You know, I had wounds that I was carrying with me into my early adulthood. And then I watched my mom um, just go from like relationship to relationship, you know. So she was always, you know, she was dating and then she got married and then divorced, and that happened a few times. And so I formed a view of relationship as something not to um, put a lot of faith in, and to see, it just felt like it was struggle, it was survival, it was betrayal, um, it just didn't, I didn't have a lot of faith in it. And then as I was in high school, I ended up falling in love with my high school sweetheart. Lo and behold. And so then, you know, it was like I was so headstrong that, you know, that we were going to work out, that we were going to, you know, make it work, and that I wasn't going to repeat the patterns you know, what had come before me. And then so we were trucking along. We got married really young. We were both 21. And but you know, when you're 21, you don't feel like you're 21. You feel like you know what you're doing and you've got it all.
Yeah,
And, you know, and
yeah.
that was me. And so then we were trucking along and we started having issues and struggles and problems and betrayals. And it was all just starting to repeat. And I started to, you know, I was just like, oh my gosh, like I am replaying the pattern. Like, oh, the thing that I didn't want to do, you know? And so, um, and that, you know, so that we had infidelity like happening on both sides. And we just started getting stuck on this loop of like our wounds would come out, and then we would just act out, and then and then it would be like, oh, I'm so sorry, and then it would just become this like cycle. And so the pivotal moment for me, that very first one, was just realizing that this is not going to be okay for me. Like, I do not want to repeat this. I do not want to hand it down my legacy. I do not want my kids to have to repeat this. Like, I've inherited it, from my childhood, and my the programming and the conditioning that I received. And
Right.
and just realizing that a lot of what was playing out in my relationship had to do with the wounds I was carrying and the way I was looking
Yeah.
out at the world from, and needing to prove my worth to my spouse or to others, and looking for validation from him, or from, just not having healed those things that I came into my young adult life with, so I had a moment where I just like made a promise to myself that I am not going to allow this to continue. And I was like, I'm going to make relationships my thing. I'm going to go, like, it's going to be, really, really heartfelt for me. So I dove in and I just started researching relationships. I studied psychology. I went and got my BA and my master's in psychology and spiritual psychology. And then, just like really started studying energy medicine and transformation and healing, all
Wow.
different modalities across, I would say, the next 10 years from that point. And I healed along the way. I healed all of these wounds that I had been carrying. Number one, this is the funny thing, is that when you have a wound, you don't realize you have a wound, and so
Yeah.
I was, I went into like my spiritual psychology master's degree program, and I was like, I have nothing to really work on. I'm good, And then lo and behold, as we go into the program, it's like we work on each other and we work on ourselves. And it's like, whoa, there's my wounds. Okay, I see them. Like, and so it was really humbling to move through that process, and to be able to be in both sides of the equation of, like helping others and also being helped in that situation.
How can we dive into what is the context of wounds? What do you mean by that? You're talking a bit about wounds. Give
Yeah.
me open that up a little bit.
Yeah. So how it plays out in our relationship is we get, for example, one way can be that we're very, like, when we have a challenge or a conflict, how we
Hmm.
respond to the challenge or the conflict tells everything. So if I'm triggered by it, meaning like it pushes my buttons and it makes me feel bad that either my spouse said this thing, or it triggers me into a reaction to where now I'm in defense, or now I'm justifying, or now I'm trying to prove something. All of these are telling that we have some sort of wounding from a previous experience. Usually it's from childhood. For the most part, we get our view of the world before we turn 7 or 8 years old. And then after that, it's just like reinforced through our experiences. And,
Yeah.
so my childhood was pretty hard at that age. And so I was, a lot of my wounding was around trying to prove myself, seeking validation from things outside of me, and not feeling good enough, and those kind of things. And so how that was replaying in my relationship was, when I felt like my husband wasn't paying enough attention to me, or he was, um, his attention was elsewhere, I would revert to, oh, okay, I need to go find validation somewhere else then, because he's not giving it to me. So then I sought out,
Okay.
other things. And then he had his own wounds too, that, it's so crazy, but because we're energetic beings, we will, like, we attract each other like a match to our opposite. Like, whatever our wounding is, like, our partner will like push on the buttons to call out that wounding. And I did that for him and he did that for me. So it's really, no matter where you attract from, it's like it is a sacred bond, because one of the things I talk about is like you will never grow, like you don't have any other opportunity for personal development like you do in a relationship. Like it is really this
Yeah.
like container of personal growth. And when you know how to use it for that, not only do you up level yourself and uplift yourself and become more and more of who you are, but also your relationship can survive. You can have a successful, thriving relationship. And when you don't,
Have you
yeah, go ahead.
have you found that with this transformation that you've gone through, not only your communication between you, but communication around with the people around you as well changes? How
Um,
you speak to other people, does that impact
oh,
that do you find that
Yeah. One of the things that was really interesting is I actually started so I went and got my master's degree and all that in psychology. And I started because I just had my daughter at that time, my firstborn. And so I was a brand new parent. And one of the things was like, I don't want to replay this. Like, I don't want to give her the wounding that I had. And so much I knew, okay, for 7 years, the most crucial. So I started off doing conscious parenting classes, and so I was teaching other parents how to like parent their children. And it's the same content, really. Like most of it is so similar of like how you speak to your child and like in a very conscious way and help bring out the best in them, is also how we need to be speaking to our spouses and interacting. And also, it's like so much of heal, the parent has to heal their wounds so that they don't put them on their child. So we have to, number one, be humble enough to realize, okay, this is coming from like they're showing me where my wounds are by the way that I react to it. And that's how it works across the board in every relationship,
so good?
really.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Now, you described in some of your transformational moments, your own journey, being on the bathroom floor, deciding to end painful cycles. How did that moment set your course? Dive a little bit deeper into that.
Yeah, so that was that moment that it was just like I was trying, trying to do, all the traditional advice at first, like read the right books and go to therapy and speak to the pastor and all those things, and it's like none of it was really working. It was just all falling flat. And if it worked, sometimes it would work for a little while, and then it would just revert back to what our cycles were always. And it was like I hit a point of which it was just enough was enough for me, and it was like, okay, I have to either leave this relationship or fix it. And what is and I just, it was like I knew so much that what I was bringing to the table, like I was able to tell that I could do better. And so that's what really was like, let me figure this out. And that's when I made that promise to myself that this ends with me. I'm not going to allow this cycle of pain. We were just like cycling into like our wounds and triggering each other, and it was like just getting worse and worse. And it was not the relationship that I dreamed of. And so
Yeah.
it was a big breaking moment for me.
Yeah, relationships are a interesting uh, mechanism of complexities, and every part of a relationship, there's different things that you need to work on. I hear from what you're saying, a lot of this stuff comes down to understanding where and you talked about the wounds, which comes from things that have happened in our childhood, our past. And then a lot of it seems to be communication, or how to communicate effectively around that. You have a program called the Legendary Love Program, and was developed out of this whole process. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yes. So I am, one of the things that I'm really good at is figuring out systems to things, patterns, like what it takes to like get from point A to point B. And so after doing all of my research, I basically compiled it all and looked at like what are the most essential things that a person has to do to ultimately save their relationship, turn it around. but deeper than that, like heal themselves and get to a place where this relationship experience has been a call forward into their greatest transformation and to their own personal like upliftment of who they came here to be. And you can't really do one without the other. So that's why, what I found was all of that stuff, the traditional advice, all of that, it was just so disappointing because it leads you down a wrong path. It leads you to the path of, trying to work on communication tools or trying to do love languages or trying to do, let's talk about the past and who was right and who was wrong and why do I feel this way? And all of those things just keep you rehashing the past, running in circles. You end up just working on the surface level and not really going deep into like where the change needs to take place. And so that's why, even in my own experience, I noticed that the changes were just temporary at first. It was like you don't get anything that's like really truly lasting with these approaches because they stay like stuck on the surface. And so with my program, what I realized is that we have to dig deep right at the beginning. So it does not matter like really I don't work with couples. Like even though like couples will come to me, I split them up and I say, okay, we're working one-on-one with you and we're working one-on-one with you. And because that's where the core of this is. And then what they do is by doing that work and like healing the places that their pain might be coming from, because everyone's perspective is unique, and so you might be looking at the same problem or same issue and each of them have a different perspective as to what happened here. And that comes from the lens that they're looking out from and the beliefs that they have about themselves in that situation. So if
So good.
we work on just the individual and heal it at the root, like really go dive deep into that. And so what I did was I came up with a process. This is so amazing. A process for healing. I go in a single session. We could take like one specific deep wound, a trigger, and we could go into it with a single session. And
Sorry, Jessica, just hold it 1 second.
okay.
My computer's decided to start playing music. Give me
Oh,
1 second. I do
okay.
apologize.
Yeah.
How the hell is it doing
I don't hear anything.
that? Oh, you might now.
Is it dramatic?
I do apologize. The whole office is getting disrupted. All right, sorry, continue as you were saying.
Okay, yeah. So what I do is I go in a single session and we go right to the core wounding of what is causing this, for example, mistrust. So that's one thing that my husband and I both struggled with, but especially my husband. And it's like that he has this wound that's like if you don't go in and like really heal where that's coming from, then everything is going to be about protection. Everything is going to be about trying to protect and make sure that I don't get hurt again, and so therefore how you're reacting in the relationship it can become controlling, it can become accusatory, it could become where you're nagging or like you really lose so much of who you are, and then you end up putting yourself and your spouse in this cage, and nobody's happy in a cage, and it becomes like your relationship becomes like you lose more and more of who each of you are because of this one wound.
Yeah.
So where did that come from? So in a single session, I've put together through all of the training and education that I've had, I found like the one path that really works so well to go into that deep place and to rewire that wound from the root, and then to come out and bring it to where it's a whole new perspective, a whole new belief about that situation, about that thing that was causing the mistrust. and where it came from, and like really like restructure it. So I have these amazing sessions. I call them netter sessions. And
You call them what? Sorry, say that again.
netter. So they're neural energetic trauma release sessions. And so
Right.
we go in and really, like, you would go in and heal it
So
on the
good.
neural level. Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah, because it
That's
affects the
amazing.
energy and everything. Yeah. So then
And
sessions,
you,
that's my first step in my program is, we have to start there. Because if you do anything, if you try to do anything else without starting there, it's gonna be like this wound is always gonna pull you back. You'll only get so far, and then you get yanked back, back into that pain or back into that thing. So we have to start there. And that's the place that blocks you. So whenever you're trying to even like you do manifestation or attraction or anything like that, you can't, if you still have that wounding, you're just going to always get pulled back, and it's always going to pull
pulled
you back
into, yeah,
to like the lower
yeah.
limiting normal that you're operating from. So we start there. And then after that, and almost simultaneously, we do the next step, which is I call align. And so this is where we start using practices for aligning yourself with the highest version of who you are, that best version of you. So you start to look at, okay, what are the parts of myself that I lost along the way in this relationship that has got me to this place where now I'm operating from someone that I don't even know who this person is anymore. Like when it was me,
Mm.
I would look in the mirror and I would say, oh my gosh, I'm bitter, I have resentment. I'm not playful anymore. I'm not excited. I'm in defense. And that's not who I am. That's not me operating at my best. But it's who I've conditioned myself to like live as my normal. And so it's about recalling back who you really are, and then
Right.
doing inner work to um, to really align yourself with that higher version. So you call back the grounded one. You call back the one who is trusting in source, in God. You call back the one that is calm and grounded and can be present in a situation, and that
Mm.
lives in your heart, is open hearted, all of the things the places that you've really lost yourself along the way. That's a line. And then the next step is attract. Attract is all about, this is where we start to get on what could be similar to those surface level techniques. So we go into conflict resolution, we go into building emotional connection, we go into sexual connection and intimacy. And we do it though from a totally different place, because it's not about, okay, here are some tools of how to get this at the best way possible. It's actually, how do I embody and attract that from living inside of me first, right?
Yeah.
So, for example, with like the sexual intimacy, that's a perfect example. How do I get to a place where I am really loving and feel connected and sensual and sexual within myself first, before I even try to start looking at how can I cultivate it in the relationship? It's so backwards to go that way.
Oh,
And
wow.
so
Powerful. Yeah.
you've got to like really own it, embody it. And so then sometimes what you find in this step is that I have blocks. Especially for women, there's like self-image blocks that are happening there. Men have their own versions of like the blocks that are happening in the sexual arena, and so it's like we have to remove those blocks, and we have to step into and own like our own connection to ourself before we can
Oh,
expect anybody, especially our partner, to be able to mirror that back to us, because we will attract what we have, who we are. We don't get what we want, we get who we are, and so that's the
so
big
good.
step
Wow.
there. Yeah. And so when it comes to
Yeah.
conflict resolution, it's like, okay, how can I embody presence and being able to see from a bigger picture, and not going into defense or fight, flight, or freeze. How do I do that? How do I do that within myself first? Not try to blame, I need my partner to do it first. Not, well, they're not doing this, and they do it this way, so that way it triggers me, and therefore I feel justified for how I respond. No, it's you have to really bring forward the very best of yourself first. And so the work is really in that arena. And then when you do that, you don't ever need, with my approach, you don't ever need these surface level tools like the things that you see in the books and when
So deep.
traditional
Yeah.
communication, like it because it's a natural byproduct. When
So good.
you don't even, it's so heady. It's like you, it doesn't it's not necessary. Um, and you just trigger,
Wow.
because we are energetic beings and everything is energy. And so when I shift my energy, it actually shifts the energy of my partner. And they will feel it, and it will call them up into being their better self. It will call them up into their greatest transformation, which is
So good.
why, yeah, I can, work on just one partner at first, so a lot of
Yeah.
times my clients come to me with just, their partner isn't interested, or maybe they've already tried therapy. Actually, a lot of them come to me at that place and it didn't work. And it's like, so the other partner is like burnt out. And so when they come to me, I'm like, that's okay. Like, let's just work on, that's what we're going to do anyway.
You first. Yeah.
So yeah.
So good. So having helped hundreds navigate this whole emotional shutdown, infidelity, all this kind of stuff, can you maybe run through some success stories or some context on what that's looked for, how this has looked for others in your space?
Yeah. I mean, my own success story is a great one. And also I have,
But what about some of the other people that you've been helping? You don't have to name them, but give me some examples and some stories of how you've transformed and helped people in your space.
yeah. Um, so I had a woman come to me who, I want to say she was married at that point for about 22 years, something like that. Maybe it's 20. And
Wow.
her husband had it was going through some addictions. And so he was, battling his own demons in that arena, and it was causing problems in their relationship. And so she came, he wasn't interested in doing any work. And so, again, I said, that's okay. And I brought her in and we started moving through the program step by step. And she really was just so teachable and so coachable, and started applying everything. And lo and behold, she started seeing big changes in her spouse, and they came back together. Like she came to me saying, like, I'm ready to leave. Like, this is my last ditch effort. If this doesn't work, like, I'm done. Absolutely. And that's again where most people come to me at.
Wow. Yeah.
And by the end of it, she's sending me a letter. She's like, we are having so much fun together. We're two peas in a pod. We are like best friends again. Like, we love hanging out with each other. And it was just like a huge um, transformation for her, and so just to be able to do that is amazing. And then sometimes I do have other couples that, like, again, it will be just the one person. A person I'm thinking of in particular is, he was a male client, and his wife had just left him. And in his case, his wife never came back. But through the work that we did together, he had been dealing with some his own wounding, and a lot of it was around, not feeling good enough, um,
Yeah.
and his pain in that way, and his wife leaving kind of reinforced that. But also he had these ailments in his body that were now manifesting to pain all over his back and all over, down in like where his liver was, and he would have these like cysts that were growing. And through the work that
Wow.
we had done, I had helped him to really heal from the trauma that he was carrying prior to his, relationship ending, and then to being able to move through the healing of having the breakup. And he actually started healing his body too. And so we would do these healing sessions, and through that and the coaching and all the reinforcing and all of that, he has shared with me that his pain has gone away. And so that, I mean,
Oh, wow.
that's just another really amazing um, experience. And so that's the one thing
Um,
that I say is that, the transformation. So whether when you do the work, what happens is you end up either calling your partner into their greatest transformation, and the relationship can restart at a place that is not the same way that you had it before, but a brand new relationship where it can really turn into something beautiful and sacred. Or what happens is you do the work and it reveals why maybe your partner is not able to meet you at that level, and but the transformation that you have is so incredible because now you're living from your highest place. And when couples don't do this and they just like have a breakup or a divorce, they end up attracting the same issues in a new partner. So
yeah,
because we
it's a
attract,
cycle, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
because we attract from who we are, from where our wounding is, from our thoughts and beliefs and our patterns. And that's what I saw my mother doing. So she went from like relationship to relationship, and she would still, it was like the same issues that she was facing each time. And
So good.
the other thing is like, it's,
So just I want to dive into. We got a little bit of limited time, so I want to dive into a few more questions here that were to keep us on path here. Just tell me this, right? You mentioned the importance of breaking traditional relationship rules, which I like that because there's so many rules out there that we believe in, or these limiting beliefs that we think are, I don't know, maybe it's old wives' tales or things that we've learned about relationships in the past, right? Whatever that is. And we get all this stuff from the media telling us how to live our lives and what good relationships are supposed to look like, right?
Mhm.
So there's a lot of misinformation and stuff out there. Tell me what is the traditional rules that you've been breaking, and what specific rules do you believe hinder relationships the most? How does your approach overcome these hurdles?
um, okay. So, I mean, so some of the major things that I would say I would be breaking or going blazing a.
Can you start that again?
Okay,
Can you start that again? Sorry,
sure.
go again.
Yeah. So some of the uh, traditional roles that I would say that I do very differently would be that I just don't believe in couples therapy when it gets hard like that. Again, is just going to keep you stuck looping in like who's right, and let's think about the past, and you end up leaving so much worse than like and they don't, and traditional therapy does not have a very good track record either. Long term, it's a very low. um and then so if I were to go like more into the relationship, I would say there are things that are essential to make a relationship thrive. And one of those things, it goes back to my program, and it's the last step of my program. And I call it anchor. But essentially, like, you can make all of these beautiful changes, but if you don't anchor them, you will slowly but surely like revert back to um, what you have always known. Or we are so, our bodies and our minds tend to like to bring us back to what we've been are operating in for years and years. And so if we don't anchor our new growth into um, the things that will keep us growing and moving forward, and in that place of long creating longevity of a sacred relationship, then there's really no point in doing all the work. I mean, I wouldn't say no point, but it's like it's almost like I can guarantee that
Makes it
eventually
harder.
down the line, maybe it's 5 years, maybe 10, you're going to be facing divorce again. So you have to anchor yourself forward. And so some of those things that I would say are
So
absolute like essentials.
tell me what are the traditional rules? This is the question, right? What are the traditional rules that we most face and have in our society that you're breaking down? So, for instance, we get told all kinds of stuff in the relationship space. But what are the big things that stand out for you that are being told to people and as couples, or things that you see in the media that you're kind of breaking through in the context of your method?
Well, um I would say again, like the major thing is that when there's a challenge, that it's actually a bad thing. There's a conflict. The way that I sort of reprogram it is that this conflict is a gift, because it is bringing you both.
So the idea that a conflict is a problem is the lie that we've been told, right?
Yeah, because it is the opportunity. It is the sort of the revelation of where your wounds are. And if you don't have that sort of mirrored to you, then you can never grow from it. And so each conflict that we experience in a relationship is actually a gift, because if you can learn to move through it in a way that allows you to not only take ownership for where your triggers are and what wounds they're leading to, and also then be able to help your partner to do the same, then you're going to use that conflict. It's going to turn into your greatest connection. It's going to create deeper connection because you were able to use that for your growth rather than for destruction. And it's really ends up being either or. Like if you don't know how to use it for growth, it automatically creates more destruction in the relationship. So that's a rewiring and a sort of a different way of looking at it. Um, Also,
Good.
I would
I
say
love
that,
that.
yeah, in the area of forgiveness, one of the things that is very contrasting to a traditional way of looking at it is I don't the only forgiveness that we can really ever do is self-forgiveness, because when you look at your relationship from a spiritual perspective, you don't have um, dominion over your partner. You really don't have control or the capacity to redeem your partner. Like you are your own person, and the only person that, if there's an energy and entity that has the capacity to forgive you, would be God, and or the higher power or source. And it's really between you and that relationship. And so when we do forgiveness, it's more of, I forgive myself for, oh, excuse me, um, it's more about, I forgive myself for buying into a misinterpretation of reality, that my partner did this on purpose, or that my partner is this way, or that I have to be this way. And so we're forgiving ourselves for buying
Taking
into
taking
like a
ownership.
misinterpretation of reality, rather than needing to forgive our partner for something that they did or something that they are, because that's usually not who they are. Like, that's their wounds being made visible. So when we,
That's so good.
yeah.
I love that. That is very, very powerful context in terms of, that you got to seek from inside first, right? That's
Yeah.
so, so good.
Mm-hmm.
Your approach hinges on individual transformation as a catalyst of relationship healing. How do you encourage individuals to embark on this journey when they might be skeptical about initiating change single-handedly by themselves?
How do I'm sorry, can you say that part again?
So you have this approach where you work with people individually, right? So you work with
Mhm.
a man or woman. How so? You have a business, right? And you got people coming to you, and they want to do business with you, but they're skeptical, right? We're all skeptical about how are we going to transform, and how do you so working with these people individually, how do you break down the skepticism for them to so that they will want to work with you?
Um, so I just start showing them and teaching them through either a call or a video, to where I show them exactly where that they are and where that they could be, and just showing them that by relating to them, relating to knowing all of the things that they're feeling, and how that has actually, we can actually change that, and we can actually move that from point A to point B.
Let me reframe the question. So, if say for instance, I was going to come and work with you,
Mhm.
and I had obviously got relationship problems, right? Because most of your people come to you with relationship problems, and I'm kind of nervous about this whole process, and I was going to talk to you. Um, what would you say to people to, I suppose, help them to take that next step to actually take the plunge and start diving into this?
Well, I think that sometimes people come with limiting beliefs about like their capacity, whether or not that they can actually create change, especially starting with just themselves. So I would encourage them.
What would you say? What would you say to them with that? Yeah.
Yeah, I would encourage them that, because we're energetic beings, because that, it helped them to see that, number one, they're not operating from their optimal um, energy right now. And once they get that back, then not only are you able to be and feel more empowered in who you truly are, but now you can actually create, um, attract, evoke naturally the things that you want from your partner, because you're operating from a totally different place. It's like that Einstein quote of, you can't change, oh gosh, how does it go? You can't solve a problem from the same place that the problem was created. So, and that's what
Right.
most people try
Yeah.
to do, is they try to, okay, I'm in the pain right now, let me try to solve the problem. And that is the absolutely wrong way to do it. We have to get to a new place, like become somebody new, let go of the past of who you are, and then embrace who you really are, and then attract from that place. And that's where your solutions are. So I would say to that person is that ultimately, what you're going to get out of this is your own personal upliftment, growth. You're going to come back to your own sense of power, your own sense of inner fulfillment, your own sense of self-love. And if your partner can meet you there, they will naturally do that. And you will see, it's like, in a lot of times people come to me because like they're not sure if they should stay or go. They're at this crossroads of like, should I stay or should I go? Should I leave my partner or should I not? And I just like, you know what? We don't even have to answer that question right now. All we have to do is do this inner work, because it will be revealed.
Yeah.
It will, like,
So good.
just step out of trying to worry about that, because even that is coming from a place of lack and fear, and unknowing and no clarity, and so when you can get to this place of where you're really stepped into and embodying your highest truth, you're in your self-worth, you're in your self-radiance, you're in your self-love, you're in your self-confidence, you're in your power, and you can't help but naturally attract those same qualities from your partner as well. But
Mm.
sometimes, it doesn't. It also reveals that in some situations, your partner just can't meet you there. And that's an answer too. It's just as sacred. And you no
Yeah.
longer have to be stuck in this ambiguity around it.
So good. You have a favorite quote by Rumi. Is that correct?
Yes, I do. And
You want to dive into that and unpack that a bit? I like that quote. Your
yeah.
task is not to seek for your task is not to seek for love, but to merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it.
Mhm.
Go for it. Unpack
Yes.
that.
So that quote really highlights um, the steps of like really going in and heal, because we have created barriers to experiencing love. And the truth is that you already are love. Like, you already are love embodied. And from that place, you would naturally be attracting that back to you. But what's happened, because maybe your childhood conditioning was something similar to mine, or maybe even your previous relationship conditioning just created these negative experiences, limiting beliefs, wounds. We have all these barriers that we've built, and we thought they were protection, because at one point they really did serve us as protection. So like when I had these walls up as a child, they helped me feel safe from what I was experiencing from my father, or just different things. It was like this was my protection. And so, but it was also turned into a barrier to where I was not able to experience myself as love and attract from love. And instead, I was attracting from need, and I was attracting from lack and not enough. And so that's what I was getting back. And so when we find and remove these barriers that we've built against it, then we are in love, and then we naturally will attract that back to us.
It's so powerful. Could you do me a favor? Can you read that quote so the listeners can hear that from you?
Yes. Let me find where I have it, because I might mess it up.
To be up on your wall.
I know. Oh, I know.
It's okay if you don't have it. We can skip past that. But if you do,
You
that'll be
mean a
very
Rumi
helpful.
quote? Is that the
Yeah,
one you're talking about? Oh, okay.
yeah, yeah. Rumi quote.
Okay. Yeah, give me just a second. I'm almost there. Okay. Yes. You ready?
Yeah, go on.
Your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it. But I like to say it,
So good.
when you raise your frequency and anchor into your truth and then embody your power, you don't beg for love. You become the force that evokes it.
Wow, so good. I love that. Very powerful, very deep, and I love listening to all the stuff you have to say about this whole relationship context. I don't think there's many people in the world that wouldn't resonate with a lot of the stuff that you're saying, and because relationships are tough, they're not easy, and you need tools and resources to be able to navigate that quite often. And like you said, there's a lot of misinformation and limiting beliefs and wrong ideas about it, plus wounds and our past and history and that stuff that we all got to work through. So working with an expert like you is obviously very important and imperative to navigate all of this. Looking back at your journey, what insights do you wish you had when you first started, and how have these insights influenced the way you guide others today?
Hmm. Um, what insights do I wish I had? Gosh.
You know how before you told me that even now lately you've made a transformation in how you think and all the stuff that's you got it. There's a new perspective that's come out of. You've had 3 children now. Congratulations, and you're in a different place. You started this maybe what 10, 15 years ago. I don't know how many
Yeah,
years ago you
yeah, about
started.
16 or so, 17 years ago.
16 years ago, right? So from that, let's say from that point when you first started, right, versus now after being in a relationship, having 3 kids, what do you wish you had in the beginning that you help people with now? Just
Um,
one or two primary things.
mhm. I think, what one of the things that is really big for me now with working with my clients is really helping them to step into that second step, that align place, because we really can't create anything without stepping fully into who we really are, and like coming back into ourselves more fully, and and trusting our power to create, and trusting the path that we're on, and making sure that we make time to invest in ourselves. And sometimes it's like we just want something so badly that we want to skip over this step and stay a victim. And it's like, to be able to really own and step into and embody that piece of it, that I'm more responsible for my experience in my relationship than I like to give credit for, and that I really can make a difference, or trust that when I do, if my partner falls off, that that's what was meant for me too, and to really lean in on that. And that's something that at
Okay.
the beginning I didn't necessarily have as important, or even the very beginning, it wasn't entirely there yet. So I think that would be a very big thing that's different now, that makes a big difference. Yeah.
That's huge, right? If only we knew when we were younger,
Yeah.
right? Things will be different. But learning is growth, and you've done an amazing job moving through the hurdles and learning from your experience and taking charge of it. Now helping other people in the space, in their relationships, to heal, mend, bond, bring together,
Mm-hmm.
empower. Those are very important and really awesome things that you're doing. So, for those listening today, they're trapped in their relationships, or they're feeling stuck or overwhelmed or not sure which way to go. Um, how can people get in contact with you and or find out more about you so that they can find some growth?
Yeah, yeah. So they could go to sacredlove.org, O-R-G, and I have some content there that they could find more information on me and get in contact, and we can go from there, help them out.
And I'm not sure if the team asked you, but if you're have you got any free information or any kind of stuff that you could get help out readers with or listeners with today that will help them get move a little bit step closer to you, or move a little bit step closer to what they're trying to
Yeah, yeah.
figure out in their relationship?
So if you go to that website, then you will get like a free training that goes a lot more in depth than all of that information that I just shared today. Yeah.
So good. And guys, we'll be sharing that link below in this video. You guys can just jump into that and check it out. So good to have you, Jessica. Thank you. I've learned so much already just in the short time that we spent together. Very big stuff that you're dealing with. I'm very impressed. Well done.
Thank you.
You're doing a great, fantastic job. And this is a much needed lot of information in our society for sure.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.